Welcome to the Unlock the Genius Within podcast. My name is Jordan DeBarno, founder of the Creative Genius Academy. And on this show, I'll be teaching you the principles to unlocking the part of your consciousness where your true genius and potential lives. Thanks for joining me today, and let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Unlock the Genius Within podcast. It is amazing to be here with you all, whether you are, jumping on after following me for a few years. It is amazing to be continuing this journey together. And if you're new to my world, welcome. It is amazing to have you here as well. What we're going to start off with, guys, is I'm going to set a general intention for this podcast and give you a little bit of structure that you can expect over the coming weeks. And then we will get started into today's episode because we've got a lot to get through. So if you don't know me, my name is Jordan DeBarno. I am a creative development coach. And essentially what I focus on in my business is I help people unlock their true genius and potential in life. And however that wants to come through for that individual, whether it's they're an entrepreneur and they've got all these ideas that they want to bring to the world, or they could be a coach and they're destined to speak from stage and do podcasts like this. Or maybe they're an incredible artist and they've got a real knack for writing hit songs or maybe even making some paintings that are going to be up in museums. Whatever it is, I am really interested in helping people access that part of them that is a true genius. And the reality is we all have it. We really do. And when we're able to embrace it, not only do we create epic things in the world, but we really do find ourselves. We find our hearts. We find who we've always been deep down. And the more we, entertain that journey, not only do we find out more about ourselves, we embody that person more and more and more. And life just starts to become a lot more fulfilling. So that's what you can expect on this podcast, guys. We're going to be diving deep into structures and principles that will not only help you unlock your true genius and potential, but it'll also help you bring it to life. We're going to be going into things that are going to help you create the business, create the song, bring the painting to life. And not that I'm going to teach you artistic principles here, but I'm going to be going into things around alchemy, creative development that's going to take you out of your limiting beliefs and limiting emotions that can often get in the way and sabotage whatever it is that your genius is guiding you to create. I'm also going to give you a little bit of background and some structures that have worked for me in my businesses and in my sales background, so you can actually get your creations out there and rewarding you, so you don't have to go and continue working a 9-to-5 role. And it's going to be a very, very powerful journey for a lot of us, including myself. I cannot wait to see who I become as a result of doing this podcast. Now, the structure that you can expect each week, we're going to be, going through core principles to unlocking your potential and genius. They'll be dissected up into certain topics. Some weeks we might be going more into the mindset side of things. Other weeks it'll be on alchemy. Then in other weeks we might go back and I might dip my toe in the sales pool again and teach you guys some communication strategies and how to hold yourself in key scenarios when it comes to actually like selling your genius ideas. And at other times we'll just be talking about more high-level philosophical principles to your potential, to your consciousness, and to your mindset as well. So there's going to be the principle side of things, but also at the end of each episode, I'm going to be actually giving you guys an exercise to do, and you'll be able to do that live with me. So always listen to the end, because it's in the application of the work where things really start to hit the ground and where the transformation takes place. Because if the transformation doesn't take place, essentially our behaviors won't change, and therefore the results that we create in our life won't change at all. So without further ado, guys, let's get started on what we're going to be covering today. Now, Admittedly, when I sat down to tune into what episode 1 of Unlock the Genius Within was going to be about, when this topic came to mind, I laughed first off, and secondly, I really couldn't think of a better way to kick off this show, because what we're going to be covering today is going to give you the truth, the hard truth of going after your genius. And quite often, quite frankly, this particular subject that I'm bringing up today, it's not spoken about enough. So the topic's going to be why you forgot that you're an actual genius, why we actually forget. And my intention is to give you the truth of how us as human beings, we're actually not the way we grow psychologically, the way we develop physically. It's not in favor of us going for our greatness, going for our genius. It really isn't. It's in favor of survival. You know, you have a look at when we're a little baby and we come into this world, we can't fend for ourselves. You know, our ego, the part of us that can alert us to dangers, it's not fully formed yet. We have to go through a whole phase of development, which is called individuation. I'm not going to be covering that on this podcast, but it is a very, very key part to understanding your genius. And you know, it takes time for us to learn how to actually make it in this world and know what it's like to live on planet Earth. But the downside of that is we become disconnected from our genius. We really do, because we grow and form to survive. And the one thing that you need to understand is that you can't be in your genius and in survival at the same time. You really want to note that down, because they're two separate parts to your consciousness. And we're going to be diving into that today. So the first thing that I really want to go deep into is the misconceptions around why we forget that we're a genius. And really the first thing that I hear a lot on my one-to-one calls and in workshops is that, you know, Jordan, I've got some limiting beliefs. I've got these heavy emotions, and therefore, like, you know, I've kind of got an idea about my genius, but you know, it escapes me, and I don't bring it to life. Or other people are like, well, I'm just so busy with life, and I've got so much stress on my mind that I don't have time to go and look for my greatness and really work out what it is that I'm destined to go for in this lifetime. And structurally and like evidently in the world, that is actually incorrect. It's incorrect on two levels, and I'm going to explain that in a second. But before I do, I just want to pre-frame what I'm about to say. Please don't think that I'm trying to discredit your past, because I've got a past. We've all got things that have happened to us that really, they sucked. Okay, they were really hard, and I don't want what I'm about to say to come off as like I'm trying to take that away from you. With what I'm about to say, I want it to empower you so that you can go, well, bad stuff happened, disempowering stuff happened to me. That's not going to change. But also, I can create my genius. I can be great despite what's happened. Okay. So, the first thing about this whole belief that our limiting beliefs are in the way is that structurally that's incorrect, because your limiting beliefs live in a separate part of your consciousness compared to your genius. They're actually in two separate parts. Okay, your limiting beliefs are in the part of your consciousness that, you know, use past information and experience to make decisions and propel you forward in life. Your genius is in a totally separate part of your consciousness, and that just relies on the truth. That's all it's concerned with. And they're so different. And you actually can't be focused on both at the same time. You're either putting the power in your limits and your past and your experiences, or you're putting the power in your genius, which is all about your truth. And believe it or not, you knew about this. You were so clear on your truth when you were just a bundle of energy, or whatever you were before you became a human being. Okay, you knew it. You knew what you were coming to Earth to do. But you know, when we started this whole process of becoming a human, we lost it. Okay, so please understand that you literally have a choice. You can be focused on your genius and embracing that, and really using the emotions, the ideas, and the action steps that come from that part of your consciousness, or you can be in your past And looking at that and trying to overcome it too. A lot of people get stuck here. They try to overcome their past and like, oh, if I get through it, I'll eventually wind up at my gold. But the reality is you'll only recreate more limits to get through, right? And this is a very, very problematic place that people find themselves in. It's why people quite often they end up in similar situations at the same time of year. Um, and they wonder, why is this happening? It's because they're associating with this part of their consciousness where their limits and where their traumas and experiences live. So that's the first part. Now, the second part to this is, guys, we just have to look at all of the icons that we worship on earth, all of them, the songs we listen to, the food we eat, the products we buy, like they were all created by a genius. And furthermore, if you were to go and interview these geniuses and ask them about what it was like going through the creative process and how they were feeling and what was coming up for them, if they were all honest, I can guarantee you they would have told you, yeah, of course, I was running into shadows. I was running into limiting beliefs, and I still prevailed. My genius prevailed. I'm sure you've all watched the Elvis movie. If you haven't watched the Elvis movie, you need to go see it. But this is a great example of what I'm talking about. Elvis, the greatest singer of all time, in my opinion. Okay, if you think it's someone else, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, Elvis is just the greatest to ever do it. At the peak of his powers, he was going through hell, mentally and physically. Now, I'm not promoting that we all do that, because in the Creative Genius Academy, my business, we don't promote that. We actually, well, we hold the assumption that being in our genius actually takes care of our health and our mental health on a grand scale. But you've got to choose it to go that way. Obviously, Elvis wasn't choosing it to go that way. He just wanted to write epic songs, which he did. And even though all of the stuff was coming up for him emotionally and mentally, when he got on stage, he was shining a bright light that, you know, created a massive legacy. We still talk about him. There's movies about him. We still listen to his songs. And as big as he is, guys, we should all look at ourselves and go, you know what? I've got that same greatness in me somewhere on to do with something. And if I give it the power, if I choose to give it the power and I don't waver on going for it, in spite of however I'm thinking and feeling, I might be able to do something with it. I might be able to create something so massive that can not only impact the lives of many, but radically change my life too. Now, the second misconception that comes up for a lot of people when it comes to, forgetting about your genius and why we feel disconnected from it is, Jordan, I've tried the whole going for my passions and going for my purpose. Like I tried to build this business once upon a time, or I had an inkling to start writing songs, or my intuition told me to go ask that person out on a date. And I pursued it for a little bit, but then it all went to shit. My genius isn't viable in the real world. Like, I've got to make money. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want some love and respect for the art that I put out there, but that didn't happen. Now, this statement is very real for everyone, and it's been real for me too. And I still create things, guys, and I put it out there and I go, shit, it's not working. Why? And, it can be all too easy to buy the ego's, answer, where it's like, yeah, of course it's not working. It's that your genius isn't viable. Get back to regular life. But that's not actually the full truth. The full truth is, if we created something that wasn't viable, it's because we set it up to be that way. I want you to write this down. We set it up to be that way. If we got a genius business idea and we put it out there in the world and nobody bought it, it's because we unconsciously arranged the marketing campaign, the sales process, the product to come across in a certain way where people would go, nah, not going to buy it, or I can't afford it. This is one thing I used to talk about in my sales journey when I had my agency back in the days, that we create every objection we experience. That's not the customer's thing. Like, yes, it is, they're saying it, but we created the process, the product that would make them say that. Okay. So this can go down in two ways when we put something out there and it just comes across as not viable. This can really occur two ways in structurally. And the first way is that we can have a genius idea, we see it and we're like, amazing, all right, I'm excited, okay. And then unconsciously we go about creating it from a place of survival. So we get the genius business idea, and then immediately our ego's like, well, how are we going to make money? How are we going to market this? How are we going to sell it? And then all of a sudden, this genius business idea that we had changes. It morphs into something else. We start pitching something that we think's our truth, but all of a sudden it's just changed, and it's left the genius part of your consciousness and just landed in that, yeah, this is the real thing. I feel comfortable now, but really it's just a limited offer. You're projecting your own survival thing onto it, and all of a sudden you might create success, but it's limited, and you're like, crap, what people are buying isn't even what I wanted to sell. Like, that can happen too. Or you might will yourself and stay on your genius, get the idea out there, but because you're coming across from this place of survival, people are like, oh, I don't know why, but I don't want to have this. I don't want to spend my money on it. Right? This is a very real thing. And it's not because your genius idea wasn't viable, it's because you brought the survival frequency to it. You brought the survival energy to it. Yeah. So it's all about going, okay, well, how do I stay in the frequency of genius? How do I bring the genius energy when I'm selling, marketing it? When I'm getting to hold back and just not do anything and let the universe start co-creating with me. Like, that is the genius frequency. Okay. Now, this can also occur when we're feeling like a genius and we're like, yep, I got a lot of genius energy. I'm feeling passionate. I'm feeling joyful. I'm feeling creative. And then we get this idea, and it's like, oh, of course this is it. Of course this is it. I like this. This is the thing, right? And we go for it, and we're putting our heart and soul into it. We're pushing it. We're pushing it. We're putting all our joy and our creativity into it. But for some reason, it's just not giving you anything back. And it's like, fuck, man, what's going on here? And this occurs when you buy your ego's talk. Write this down. You had the genius frequency, but you went with an egoic idea. You went with an egoic idea, and it didn't give you anything back, right? It didn't give you anything back. And this is where you see a lot of people, they invest a ton of money into businesses. It doesn't give them any income. It doesn't serve anyone. And then they go, well, it's because I'm not viable. Then they make it about them. It's like, yeah, my passions and my stuff doesn't matter. But again, that's not true. You went with a false idea, and you bought it because you weren't aware that it was your ego talking to you. And your ego knows what it's doing, believe me. It will feed you these limited ideas because it wants you to stay small. It doesn't want you to, it's not evil like it sounds evil, but it doesn't want you to live a shitty life. But what it does want, it wants you to live a limited life. So it goes, great, I don't need to freak out about you not surviving on this planet anymore. You're good where you are with your small amount of money, small amount of attention. You can manage that. We both know you can manage it. So great. I don't need to trigger all that anxiety and stress. And it does it. Okay. But that doesn't mean that your genius is not viable. It doesn't mean that. And it doesn't mean that you're not viable either. It just means that you haven't been trained in going, okay, is this my genius talking to me, or is this my ego? Okay, and that's a big, big, big lesson. So before we get onto the principles, guys, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pull out a pen and pad. We're going to do a little exercise now. And I want you to just reflect on what I've told you when it comes to genius idea and survival frequency, or genius frequency and survival idea. Have a think. When have you done this in your life? And what has been most prevalent for you? And once you've done the reflection, pop me back on play and we will get into the principles of creating with your genius and staying connected to it. We're rocking and rolling. I just realized on Zoom I wasn't looking at the camera. You podcasts. Okay. Transition music on. I'm just going to keep this rolling for the YouTube crowd that are watching on. Let's do this. Okay, welcome back, guys. So hopefully you all participated in that exercise and you became aware. It's like, okay, there have been some times that I've had the genius idea and I've let my ego sabotage it, change it, and morph it into something else. And maybe that didn't resonate as much for you, but you felt that at most of the time you've come with genius frequency and energy, but the idea hasn't necessarily been a reflection of your true potential. What we're going to get into now is some key principles, two key principles that I want you to take away and really embody in all your creations, whether you're coming here for business, for your music, for your book writing, even relationships. These two principles are really going to help you not only connect into your genius, but it's going to help build an awareness on when you might slip into these egoic patterns that I've been speaking about. So the first principle is this: genius isn't just a bunch of ideas. It's also a way of being and creating in the world. You need to note that down. Write this down. If we give all of the power to our ideas, and it's like if the idea is good and the concept is like on fire and a representation of my genius, I'm good to go. Like, I don't need to worry about anything. But that's not actually the case. If you're coming at it with that survival frequency, quite often the genius idea changes into a false idea that your ego wants you to go for to keep you small, okay, which I spoke about earlier. So the genius frequency, there's a few key parts to this, which we can't cover it all on a 45-minute podcast today, but I'm going to give you a few key components. The first thing is you need to prioritize the emotion of your idea. Okay, so the genius vision that you have, the idea, you want to prioritize the emotion you feel when you see it. It's all about the emotion. Okay, lots of people are like, well, I can't fully see it. Don't worry if you can't fully see it, but if you can feel it, if you get like an inkling, and it doesn't need to be this full-on like big emotional explosion that some people could talk about as being a powerful release, like in the healing world and stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. You can just get a little whisper of it, a little whisk, and it's like, oh, it's that. Yeah, I'm really getting a sense that it's that. That is the genius frequency where you're just getting, sometimes it's something massive, sometimes it's just a little whisk of something. And if you can take that and use that emotion to inspire your actions, to inspire your ideas, to just even inspire the way you show up in the world, man, does life get exciting. Things really start to change. So that's what I want you to start with. Prioritize the emotion. Now, the next thing to the genius frequency is you want to be in your imagination. You want to be in your imagination. You want to be in such an imaginative state when you're taking action. Okay, so something that's really powerful is when you get the emotion of your idea, instead of going, what is it? Okay, what do I think this is? And you start getting in all in your head, okay? That's going to put you in survival. But if you can say to yourself, if I was to make this up, if I was just to make it up based on this feeling that I'm getting, this little whisk, if I was just to make it up, what would it be? And bam, I'm telling you, if you allow yourself to just run free with this, you will get amazing insights. You will get amazing visions that are going to scare you, by the way, which is kind of leading me to the next principle. But just stick with me for now. They're going to scare you because the ego's like, how do you know? You just got a whisk of something and you're making it up and you're telling me that this is where we're going to go now? And you got to hold the fort and be like, yeah, buddy, we're rocking and rolling. I'm making shit up and I'm going for it. Even if there's a lot of money on the line, even if it's your love life, even if it means you're going to write a book about something that seems really whack and out there, you go with it. You go with it because that's the genius orientation, which leads me to the next principle. Okay, now I got to keep looking at the camera, Jordan. um, the next principle, the gateway to your genius is being in the unknown. It's being in the unknown. And the gateway to your ego, survival, is being in the known. Write that down. This will change your life. It'll scare you, but it is the best way that we can tie this episode together. When you are in the unknown, you are on the way to your genius. Now, why is that the case? Your limits come from experience. It lives in your nervous system. It comes from a certain part of your consciousness. It triggers all this stuff that goes on in your mind and in your body, and it gets you acting in a certain way. That's the known. Okay. And it doesn't matter like how convinced you are. It's like, this is the way it is right now, when you're all triggered and stuff. What you're actually saying in those moments is, this is how it was. So therefore, this is the way it needs to be now, because you're just being reminded of your past. Okay. But it's not necessarily the case. Okay. And again, said with a lot of love here, guys, because I still go through this and it's very real for a lot of people. The way the ego comes in and starts picking you apart and leading you down a path you do not want to go down. But when we can go with the unknown, what happens? We get into foreign territory. We get into foreign territory where we feel foreign emotions. We feel foreign emotions that inspire foreign actions. And what do foreign actions create? They create foreign results, results we've never experienced in our life before. Money we've never made, products we've never created, songs we've never written, trips we've never taken, right? This is where the genius really comes to play. When we're going into foreign territory and creating a new structure for our success to stand on, that's when we turn around and we go, holy crap, I created this. Oh my God. And that's where the change happens. That's where we change. When I started doing this work, guys, when I first got the genius hit, the intuitive hit to do this, to teach alchemy, to get into creative development and help people, bring their genius to life, I was so triggered. It's like, what on earth is that? But I willed myself to stay in the unknown, and I still have to do it because the patterns are strong, man. Like your experience, your limits, they're strong, they're powerful if you let it be powerful. But you will yourself to stay in the unknown, and through doing that, guys, like I went from this serious, angry person to now, man, like I love to play when I work. I love to play. I love to laugh. I love to move my hands around. I love the camera. I'll be like all this kind of stuff. But back in the day, it was about sales calls, money, and getting to the footy to watch Collingwood. Now, again, sales is great, money's great, and Collingwood's fantastic this year. But my genius is like, dude, podcasts. Let's play the guitar. Let's play the piano. Let's go to Central America and Guatemala and do all these foreign things. And as a result, it's really changed me as a person. And honestly, it's been the best decision that I've made. And it's because of the unknown. It's because of the unknown. So just remember, foreign territory. Okay, foreign territory brings foreign emotions, which inspire foreign actions, which create foreign results. If they're foreign, you've probably never experienced them before. And if you've never experienced them before, it's probably going to change your life in a massive way. Okay. And we're going to do a little tune in right now so you guys actually get an experience of this. So get excited. All righty. So just before we do this, here's what I want you to do. Just shut down your eyes. Okay, we're slowly getting into this exercise, but just now, what I want you to do is I want you to choose to be open. Choose to be open. It's a very important choice that we make. You're choosing to be open to this exercise, but you're also choosing to be open to the genius insights that might drop in now. Choose to be open. And then, secondly, choose to be of service to your truth. This is one of the most important choices that we make. Choose to be in service to your truth. And with your eyes shut, as you've said these two things to yourself, I want you to imagine that your mind, your body, just becomes fully empty. No thoughts, no feelings, just presence. Do that now. Imagining yourself emptying out. And if it helps to breathe out, literally exhale out the emotions and the thoughts that are just present for you, start to do that now. You can take a deep breath in, filling up your belly, and exhaling out the mouth, and just letting go of this stuff. And we're doing this because we really want to develop some presence here. And as you're emptying out, I want you to start to imagine that you can see something that you really want. You can really see it. It might be a business idea being sold and like people are actually purchasing the product, or maybe you've sold it to investors, or another founder that's going to implement it. Maybe it's a song that you want to write, or a concert that you want to perform at. Maybe it's a certain type of relationship that you want to have. Whatever it is, you are sitting or standing where you are, and in the distance, you can see this genius vision. And as you're looking at it, I want you to imagine what the feeling of that vision is. Just imagine. Whatever starts to come in, whatever whisks, whatever whispers start to come in, just invite it and take notice of it. You don't need to know what it means just yet. Just really take notice of what you're getting about this vision. And as you're building up this picture in your mind, I now want you to imagine that you have no idea how you're going to get there. No idea. No knowledge, no support, no resources on how you are going to create this. You don't even know if it's going to come true. And as you're inviting in this sense of the unknown, I want you to observe how your mind is fighting it. Do your best to stay in the unknown, and instead of becoming your mind fighting the unknown, just observe it happening. If your mind is screaming at you saying that Jordan's an idiot, so be it, that's totally fine. If your mind is starting to feed you ideas on how you'll get there, that's also okay. If you're getting frustrated, that's also totally fine. Just take notice for now. And as I count down from 5, once I hit 0, I want you to open up your eyes. But just for now, get your last bit of sense of what it's like to be in the unknown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Opening up your eyes and just shaking it off. Shaking it off. Okay. And coming back to the present moment. Alrighty. Well done. What you just experienced, okay, it might have been a few things. Maybe you had the mind feeding you ideas. Maybe your mind was telling you, this is silly. Why are we even doing this? We need to know. You would have experienced some form of resistance from your mind to the unknown, because this is the classic example. Your ego needs to know. That part of you really needs to know, because it wants to keep you safe. And this is the classic difference, the classic distance that we have between our limits and our genius. And it's essentially why we forget that we are geniuses. So, guys, if you have sat there or stood up and you're on your run or whatever, and you stop to do this tune in and you're going, man, insights galore. Here's what I'd love you to do. I'd love you to share it somewhere. Maybe send a voice message to your friend. You feel free, if you're watching this on YouTube, to leave a comment on it, on what you learnt, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, feel free to leave a review on what you learnt in this episode, because obviously I love hearing from you guys and I love reviews, of course. But on top of that, it's an important part of telling your subconscious what we're going to be following now. When you learn something, you need to further embed it by sharing it. And when you share it, you tell your subconscious, this is the way it is now. This is what we're going to be focused on creating in our life. And it's a very powerful way to just complete something that has dropped into your awareness. So definitely do that. If you are in a position where you're like, I want to get some more support with not only seeing my true genius, but actually getting it out there in the world. Maybe you've got an inkling of a business idea. Maybe you're working on a business idea right now and it isn't full time and it's not your main thing, you're still working. Or maybe you're an artist and you're like, man, I would really like to make some impact, like actually make an impact with my art. And that hasn't been happening. It's just been kind of hiding in the background. What I'd love you to do is to head into the show notes and check out the programs that my business is offering right now, the Creative Genius Academy. We have 3 things on offer. We've got the Genius Toolkit, which is a self-study program, and essentially it is a place that you can come to where you can tune into meditations, guided practices, and trainings that strengthen the connection with you and your genius. We've also got our mastermind that is open right now for applications. If you are wanting to be deeply trained in the art of connecting into and receiving genius ideas while also cutting down and deconstructing your ego so it doesn't sabotage your creations, go ahead and apply for that mastermind. We also do quite a bit of training in alchemy and its application in business and relationships, which is essentially doing business from a place of power and a place of genius, doing sales and marketing from a place of power and a place of genius, rather than survival, where it's just all about you paying your bills and what have you. So if that interests you, go and apply for that mastermind now, and we'll have a 30-minute call to see if it's going to be a good fit and a good next step for you in creating your genius. Apart from that, guys, thanks for tuning in to episode 1. It's been a blast, and we will catch you next Thursday for another episode on Unlock the Genius Within. Until then, stay inspired and stay on the path to your genius.